extra step and cut out the shoulder blade later on. So you get underneath there where the shoulder blade is, start peeling back the decal, and when you can't peel anymore, you can use the tip of your boning knife. Don't cut into the loin muscle. So when I'm doing this, I'm positioning the lamb on the cutting board with the cut end of the ribs facing up. You're not peeling from the ribeye muscle down to the rib bones. You're peeling from the rib bones down to the ribeye muscle, because if you do it this way, backwards, you're going to rip up the ribeye muscle. Okay, so
peel off the bone, the shoulder bone?
What's that?
The bone is in this piece here?
The shoulder blade is right here on this end, the shoulder end, rib bone number 5, as opposed to rib bone number 12. You can see the difference as to what's going on there. And then just peel it right off. Normally this all gets saved. It's usual trimming. That'll go back in this bin right here. The next thing I do is I turn the rack over. I want to remove all these feather bones. Some of you may have a full set. This is only a partial set. The other one has even less. There's only maybe 2. A lot of times they come off when the butcher removes the chine bone, which is the spine that runs right over here. Okay? But no matter what, you've got to remove these feather bones. Don't cut straight down. You have to angle the knife at about a 30-degree angle to the cutting board. Yeah, right behind the feather bones, keeping the knife right up against the bones, and you trim them right out like that. Don't throw that out. That's usable trim. So you see this strip of connective tissue right here? That's the spinal nerve or the back strap. That's got to come out. That's very tough and fibrous. So you get underneath that and trim that right out. That's garbage.
Sorry.
All right, so now the next step is very important. You see this little dot right here, this piece of muscle tissue? Can we see that?
Yep.
There's one on the loin end. There's also one on the shoulder end. So your knife should come halfway through that little dot, because if you cut above it, you're gonna cut into the ribeye muscle. Halfway through that little dot, make a cut there, make a cut there, and then cut straight across. So the 2 lines kind of meet up with each other, just like that, okay? And then,
Are you getting bone in the other?
yeah, of course you are, the rib bones. You guys did do this in Module 1.
Yes.
Then, you lay your knife in that separation right up against the rib cage, and you start trimming off the rib bones, and keep your guiding hand away from where you're cutting, because you'll slip and cut yourself, I guarantee it. So trim all this off. This is how you did this in Module 1?
No.
I'm not even gonna ask.
We did 2 different methods, Chef. We did one method.
Did you do it with the
cutting
string?
through with the string.
Yeah.
Forget that. That's a waste of time, because even with the string, which is an additional step that you don't have the time, you don't have the time to afford to add an additional step onto this process, because I was always in situations, I wasn't butchering one of these, I was butchering 20 to 50. So even with the string, that's a precious idea if you're doing one at home. But when you have to do 50 of these, which is essentially 200 portions, you still have to go back and French the bones afterwards, so I don't get the point. All right, so now once you've exposed the rib bones, this is rib bone number 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. It should have 8 ribs on either side, 5 through 12. Okay. A lot of times the butcher sneaks in the 4th rib bone by the shoulder to add more weight to the rack, which you have to pay for and which is unusable for this preparation. All right, so now what you're going to do, you're going to come up across the rib bones, right here at this line, come across and up one side, down the other. Is this how you did it in Module 1? I doubt it, right?
No. It's easier.
What, this?
Yes.
This is how I was taught to do it a long time ago.
We were poking it through.
Do not cut below this line of fat right here, because you're going to hack into the ribeye muscle.
Tony, which one are our chickens?
You know how many lamb racks I have either
Right.
butchered or have been
Green.
responsible for? Those chickens aren't ready yet. I once estimated that I have prepped and cooked at least 500,000 of these to 750,000 over 48 years. between all the high volume catering I've done and a la carte service. All right, so now once you have Frenched the rib, once you remove the meat from the rib bones, you don't have to save this. Normally I would for ground preparations like lamb burgers, Moroccan sausages like merguez, anything at all that requires ground lamb. Now you're gonna remove all the fat and connect. Actually, before you do that, make a cut like this. You're severing the membrane on top of the bone, and then you're severing the membrane on the bottom. Alexandra, did you do this in your other school?
Yes,
Do they do it like this or some other way?
they did it like that.
Yeah, this is a very French way of doing it. All right, so now once you've made those two incisions, scoring the membrane on either side, now choking up on the handle of the knife, you scrape the bones from the side, top, and then the other side. Everybody understand what I'm doing here? So the whole point of doing this is to make more of a professional presentation for the rack of lamb. It's the same idea as Frenching the first wing joint on a chicken breast. Does nothing to enhance the cooking of the lamb, but does everything to enhance the presentation of it. These, I don't know if you talked about this, but this is an extremely expensive protein to deal with, which is why it's critical that you save all the usable trimmings. Because we pay about $14 a pound for these wholesale. It's got about a 33 to 35% yield EPQ. I assume you know what I'm talking about.
Yes, sir.
So considering that 35% yield for the portion that's going on the plate, we spend $14 a pound to buy it. It's costing us $47 a pound to put on the plate in front of the customer. It's a 4-rib, 13-ounce portion, usually. So one of the reasons why today a lot of chefs are serving a 2-rib portion, they're taking all the other usable trimmings and turning them into derivative preparations. Like maybe they would take the flank, turn it, trim off some of the fat and connective tissue, clean it all up, turn it into like lamb bacon, or butterfly it open, make lamb like a stuffed breast of lamb, or any number of things. So you may get 2 or 3 different lamb preparations on one plate. So this way, have 7 to 8 ounces of protein on the plate, but it's not costing as much to put 2 ribs as 4 ribs. That's why a lot of times today you see these derivative preparations served with a 2-rib portion. You almost never see a 4-rib portion anymore. If you were to get a 4-rib portion, like in a New York steakhouse, you're gonna pay at least $60 a person these days because of how expensive it is.